Good evening, everyone, and
Good
thank
evening.
you for tuning in to Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts. We are so glad that you are joining us this evening, and we're excited to be talking about AI tonight.
Yes.
As far as community updates and events that are happening, I have posted so many turkey giveaways, I can't even tell
I
you.
know.
So many, at least 20 turkey giveaways. So if you're still looking for a turkey, there are people serving turkey dinners tomorrow. That's posted on my Facebook page at Michelle Turner White. And thank you for all of those who have friended me on my page. Now you can see the items, and thank you for tuning in and watching us every week. And I've posted some job information as well. So you can feel free to go to my page. As far as some other community things, there is the Greater Detroit Agency for the Blind and Visually Impaired is having a gala on December the 2nd. And Greater Detroit Agency for the Blind and Visually Impaired is the organization that's been around for 62 years. And of course, we're helping the blind and the visually impaired by maybe learning how to, when everybody that's blind doesn't become blind at birth. Some people are blind, become blind as they get older. So they need to learn how to function, how to move around, how to use their cell phone, how to go from having a job to finding something different that they can do. And the Greater Detroit Agency for the Blind and Visually Impaired does just that, assist those who have that challenge, or that, not a challenge, but have that situation in their meeting their needs. So that's December the 2nd. If you are still interested and would like to go, then please let me know. You can reach me, Michelle White, at 248-238-4863, and that's December the 2nd. Dr. Regina, do you have any community update information that you'd like to share this evening?
That would be nice. Well, what I do want to share, because there have been a lot of things that are going on in our world. And what I want to invite you guys as we speak to our guests is to really start talking to us by calling in, but letting us know what's on your mind. All the things that are going on around the world is definitely impacting our mental health. And just what's happening in Israel with the Palestinians, what's happening here in Michigan, how that ties in with us. Even with the parades that are going on all over for Thanksgiving, it's heightened. Heightened. I mean, particularly New York. So you think about all these things are going on. Voting rights are being gutted, totally gutted at this point. How is that impacting you? And I know a lot of us are walking around here not really giving thought to it. But
we need to.
But we need to. Our democracy is at stake. So are we going to talk about it? Are we going to walk around like a deer in headlights?
And don't pay it any
Don't
attention.
pay it any attention. And then when it's come time to vote, well, it don't work for us anyway. Well, I have news for you. If one person get in, you really going to be saying that it didn't work for you, because it's going to send us way back. So talk to us. Let us know what's going on. Let us know about your holidays. What's going on for your holidays? Are you avoiding relatives right now because there's something that happened long ago, and there's too much pride to make up for it? Are you sad and down because you lost a loved one, and this is just too hard of a holiday? I know a young lady, she travels all the time because she lost her mother. What's going on in your life? We really want to know, and ask that you call in and share it with us at number
313-355-6018. 313-355-6018. Please call in.
Yes.
Let us know. Dr. Regina, just this evening, someone asked me for, why don't we talk about the depression that people go through once they've retired. And this person was sharing with me that they're going through depression.
Yeah.
And it's called depression, retirement depression or something. So they said they said, why don't you talk about that sometime on the podcast? I'd like to hear what other people have to say because this person is going through that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we'll have to look into that. And they're going to send me some information. But just like you said about not wanting to spend time with your family, they said, I really don't want to spend time with my family this holiday because they got a lot of mess going on. And I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I'm already depressed. Right. So that's the topic. That's definitely, you just mentioned that some people are not wanting to spend time with their family during the holiday because for different reasons.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
When I was going through a rough time with my family and I disconnected for a time. Mm-hmm. And that was very painful. Mm-hmm. And it was during some of the holidays. Mm-hmm. And I ended up spending that time with a girlfriend and her family. This was years ago. I was in my 20s at that time. But it was painful to experience that. But I was happy to have somewhere else to go for that time in that disconnect. And I did reintroduce myself. I really believe, and the Bible says, as much as possible, walk at peace with everyone to your best ability. And sometimes that may not be possible. At the same time, though, if we can reconcile, when we disconnect, reintroduce ourselves back into the family. We can set boundaries. That's another thing we need to talk about. We don't set appropriate boundaries. Or we think that people are not going to do certain things. You know, I was talking to someone and I said, haven't they been doing this all along? So you're fooling yourself if you think they're not. But that's what people do. They fool themselves into thinking that it's not going to happen again.
Thank you. Hi, caller. We got a caller calling in already. Thank you for calling in.
Like, what is that noise?
Caller, can you hear us? Hello, are you there? We can't hear you if you can hear us. Caller? Okay, maybe they have to call back.
Yeah, that was fine. So anyway, I was just sharing that reintroduce yourself back into the family. You can set appropriate boundaries and just make sure that there's love going around. It's enough hatred in the world right now. It really, really is.
And we don't want to just see our family just when there's a funeral.
That's the truth. But that's often what happens.
Often what happens.
Yes.
I remember one time I missed Thanksgiving dinner too. Went to some friend's house because I was feeling a little disconnected, trying to get reconnected with the family. My grandmother said, as long as you're living, don't you miss coming to family dinner. And when Granny said it, and she said it in that granny firm tone, I was like, yes, ma'am. She said, I don't care how many friends you have in the world and how many places and houses you have to go visit, you make sure you come and visit your family. Yes, ma'am.
Advice. Yes. Yes.
Because no matter what, it's still my family.
Yes. Yes. That's right. That's right. So anyway, give us a call.
Speaking of family, please call back at 313-355-6018. But we have Rachel Cash here today who's going to be talking about AI. And I just got to say, girl, you look so much like your mother, just beautiful as can be. But I see your mother do. You get to hear that all the time.
I do.
That's a beautiful thing. You have a beautiful mother who was just on our podcast just last month sometime.
Yeah, for the walk.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you're going to read Ms. Cash's bio. Thank you.
Rachel Cash is a dynamic and visionary leader who is passionate about data, privacy, and innovation. As the founder and CEO of Elroy Enterprise, Inc., she has built a reputation for delivering cutting-edge data, privacy management solutions that are transforming the way businesses and consumers approach data privacy. Rachel is a licensed attorney in Michigan with a specialization in data privacy, and she leads a talented team that is dedicated to putting privacy at the forefront of their work. With more than 10 years of experience in business operation, leadership, and legal compliance, Rachel has a track record of driving regulatory compliance, technology development, and government contracting initiatives. She is also committed to increasing diversity in the technology and legal field and is proud to be one of the few black women-owned technology company founders. I bet so. That's wonderful. Rachel's educational background includes a BA in English from the University of Memphis, a Juris Doctorate from North Carolina Central School of Law. She is a strong advocate for privacy rights and is dedicated to making a positive impact on society one person at a time. Through her leadership, Elroy Enterprise is making a significant contribution to creating a more secure and privacy-focused data ecosystem. Rachel
Congratulations,
Cash.
first of all.
Welcome.
Let me just say that I love seeing a young black woman starting her own company in technology, STEM. You know, that's important. And I'm just such a pleasure to meet you, and glad that you're here and is one of our guests.
Yes.
So the big question, and we're going to talk about your company, but the big question is, what is AI?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And one of the things that's pivotal right now, especially when we're talking about the elections and how people are using AI. So AI stands...
they're using it in the elections too?
Yeah, in different aspects. So the people who, your political parties leverage AI to make data models. But we'll take a step back. So AI is artificial intelligence. It's a machine, that's software, that is built to replicate the human mind. So we provide the software, lots of data, big data sets, and then we create algorithms. So think of it as like a scope tree. For this solution, is it yes or no? And the machine makes these decisions based on patterns. And those patterns are built by, right now in the tech ecosystem, typically non-minority developers. And so in a lot of times what those algorithms are doing are making models based on what a majority person, or maybe a white person, or someone who doesn't have a underrepresented community's decision-making processes, and then those decisions impact other people. So that's AI overall. So
how we see it on the screen is I mentioned to you out there that I'll see pictures of people in the jungle, and they'll have a fish, and the fish might have a head of a lion, or a head of a turtle, or a head of a snake. And at first I thought it was real, and they were had the script said, look at this formation, this mutation that was found in the waters of da-da-da-da-da-da. But after about the 10th time, I said, okay, this is AI.
Yeah.
This is not real.
Yeah, so...
But they make it look so real.
Right. And so that's a very interesting thing that's just coming up recently with AI. So what we now have, in addition to AI making decisions off of data, we also have generative AI. So generative AI, the difference is that it can create new content. Okay. So previously, AI made decisions based on data sets that existed and patterns that it had seen replicated with humans. Generative AI takes in all that data and then can produce new things. So you can see those creative things. You can feed a model and say, hey, I want to see a fish with an alligator head. And
but how do they get all the people around it too? The people that look just like me and you around the fish.
And so that's
AI too?
Yeah, so we can pull pictures from real life things and put those into the photo, and then generate new content in that photo. So it's a combination of using your software like Photoshop and then adding in new software to create new things.
Well, it is believed that AI is going to run the world.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're starting to see that impact already. IBM just released a really interesting report that they had a mass layoff of employees, and right now are projecting that about 40% of job tasks can be completed through AI.
And how are they doing that?
So for example, emails, answering emails, that can be auto filled, so they can read, your AI models can read.
Check the phone.
Your previous emails, replicate how you speak in your content and how you make content, and then start responding to emails based on how you previously responded in your calendar. And so it's just starting to integrate into existing business processes. One of them is Otter.ai. If you've started to notice in everyday lives where people are starting to have in your meetings a little AI assistant that comes around and records the calls and can like identify your next steps, what was discussed in the meeting.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
You mean like in a Zoom meeting or
Yeah,
a Teams meeting?
in a Teams meeting or a Zoom
Have
meeting.
you seen that yet?
You may have an AI assistant that comes in. It does need permission, but people are starting to leverage it instead of maybe hiring an assistant, using an AI who then will capture all the meeting notes. It will capture what has been identified as important and then send a follow-up email. And so not saying...
So it'll take the meeting minutes for you and send them to you?
Yes.
You know, it was really big, and you can speak to this, about when the strike was going on for the saga, right?
Right, correct.
And so that was one of the things that they wanted in their contract to say that AI would not replace them. It was huge, and they were able to win
because
that.
the AI could do all the films, do all the work, a lot of work they were doing.
And really, honestly, it's one of the first industries from this, and this is from like a technology attorney perspective, that has really made clear regulations around what AI can do as it imposes itself in the workplaces. So part of that was making sure you wouldn't do too much generating or 3D modeling of actors. So we're just replacing actors as part of the process, not just creating scripts, so just writing stuff, because now we have generative AI that can look at all our
and what are the different? You said there's generative AI, and what is the other?
And then just regular AI. So generative AI is that one that makes new content.
Okay.
And so it can take what our catalog of human history and then say, this is what humans have made so far. I will make something that's kind of related but new, and based on their behaviors. Past AI would just look at our behaviors and help us make decisions based on existing
And how
behaviors.
is the generative AI impacting our community?
Yeah, so one of the really big parts of generative AI is it's based on existing data models. And so, for example, in the mental health field, we have right now a clearly academic, large impact to the minority communities, Black communities specifically, of impact to mental health. And our data is being used. And so when we create generative AI, the people may be using those AI models to say, hey, what are the new policies we should have in Metro Detroit around how do we limit the impact between the police and a person having a crisis? They're going to use models that have existed maybe 10 years ago, data that existed 10 years ago, where we saw systemic racism much more. We saw more violence when dealing with the police, and how they dealt with Black people versus white people. So those AI models are trained on looking at those patterns. And so if you're taking those patterns that they're looking at data that support those patterns and then just take that into the future, there's no human there saying, hey, no, we recognize now that this is a bad pattern for us. And so it's just leaving a model to continue these patterns. So that's what the impact could be to our communities as if more people who are from marginalized communities don't get into technology and start to bring.
So what should we be getting into? How should we get into knowing more about AI as individuals?
Yeah, so a couple things. So some really great programs, especially for the younger generations, around learning how to do development. So really pushing for sponsorships of younger people who would be writing these codes, so we can remove some of those biases in our algorithms. But two, being educated yourself in who's using AI as part of their decision making and what are those impacts. So we have Rocket Mortgage here, right? A lot of those decisions about your mortgages are by an algorithm. You have a person, but you then as communities need to challenge, okay, what is your data model? What does it look like? Or is it perpetuating existing biases against, for example, Black people getting mortgages? Is that data based on 40 years ago, where there was a much lower amount of people owning homes compared to today? So it's really understanding and challenging businesses who are starting to, of course, be more efficient, but how are they using that efficiency, and then starting to pay attention if that efficiency impacts communities poorly.
I totally agree.
How does your company, go ahead.
Yeah, we have to definitely get more involved. And in tying it into the data privacy, how in the world, with all this AI and generative AI, are we protecting our privacy?
Yeah, so I think this couples with both of the questions that we were trying to get to. So right now we're in a very interesting space. So we saw the Biden administration just pass a executive order around AI, and then we have about 150 privacy regulations that are meant to protect people, and so we're funneling a lot more money towards how can you action your rights. So as an individual person, so me, Rachel Cash, can decide I want to opt out of third-party data sharing. So you see that kind of now when you log onto an app. It says, "Do you want to share my?" Yeah, opt out of that because that's how they're
getting data.
Yeah, bad users are using that data. So that could be your geolocation, unless it's a company you trust and they really need the data. So like when you're using your maps. 2, you have the ability to ask your companies to delete data from you. So in a lot of cases, say for your insurance businesses have kept data for about 30 years. They know, they can do projections of how long your population may pass away, like how long, how many accidents may happen. They don't need that data, and in fact they sell that data to other people as like part of their brokerage.
So now your company in relation to AI collects data.
Correct.
And one of the areas that you are the areas that you're moving into or have moved into is colleges.
Correct.
So you're collecting data from students?
Correct. So
go ahead, tell me
yeah,
about
so
that.
what we do is we allow people to be very proactive about who they want to share data with. So students right now we've identified as specifically targeted a lot from companies that just use their data because they're predicting the future, right? So what we allow students to do is opt in to decide they want to share their data, who they want to share it with. So what kind of companies? Is it a healthcare company? And then right now we're projecting about $180 a month that a student makes off of selling their data. So what we have done is inserted the student into the ecosystem, because right now companies and everybody's already selling your data and providing it. Your college is most likely sharing that data with other colleges to how you matriculate through from school. So we want to make sure that the student gets paid fairly and can exercise their privacy rights, but also they need money. So that's what we're really focused on. We believe data privacy is a right, and unfortunately in order to exercise that right, it's going to have to be tied to the money. And
so you show students, your company Elroy, I love the name. You got that from the
Jetsons.
The Jetsons. I love that. For those of you who remember the Jetsons, there was Elroy. And so students how are they getting this? They're making $180 by allowing you to you're going to show them how to get the data or recapture their own data? Yeah, so we operate in a browser extension. So we are working on the background. So the students really just opt in to the product, Elroy as a product, and tell us what kind of data they are willing to share. And we're in the background. So think of us very much like when your insurance company gives you that little box and puts it in the car and tracks you to see if you're a good driver. We work on the background for the student. So then you track the student's data once they sign up with your company.
And they receive a data wallet from our company, and then they select. It's completely
and that
opt-in.
wallet is an app?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you pay them per month, one time? What?
So it's per month based on how they set up their wallet.
data.
Yeah. So say they are willing to share not very personal healthcare data, but say they've looked on WebMD and said, I have a rash and I have a fever. That's very valuable data. WebMD made lots of money selling that to research institutions. So if you're an 18-year-old black female, that's very interesting data for a research institution to know that, hey, going in the future, let's provide some kind of medicine for these symptoms.
Let me ask you, so how did you find yourself in this space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I went to law school at HBCU. At the time, we were not technology.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were not technology adjacent at that time, so I had no idea what I was doing when I got done with school. And the Equifax data breach happened, which breached something like 20 million U.S. citizens. And so I took a deep dive into cybersecurity and took my first job job at a large insurance company, and then it just a lot of things start working very nicely together. So the California Consumer Privacy Act went into effect, and I start leading that project, and then just got really ingrained into privacy and understanding. At Central, which I think this is my shameless plug for HBCUs, I do think they give you a really good vision of how it's impacting your community. And so I was very interested in constitutional law. And so it just really nicely coupled together when you think about your privacy from a constitutional perspective, but we think about it from our bodies and our houses, and not necessarily from the technology that we have out there.
But when you mentioned about the Constitution, right? And it's almost like the Constitution has been gutted. It's more relativism. It's not objective anymore, and so they can create these laws and almost interpret it any way they want to. So how do we fight against that?
Yeah, so for me personally, I believe the Constitution is more of a living document. It should be applied as we continue to grow and advance in society. The problem, I think, right now is that we have a disconnect between regulators or policy writers and the people who are creating technology. So they're almost talking on two different playing fields. And who is the victims of that are the citizens or the people who are using these technologies, because you're kind of just like a consumer. Like you want access to something, and because you want access to something, you blindly say yes. And then that company gets to do whatever they want because they offered you something, and that's like just basic contract law. But you are so much more valuable than what the company has given you the ability to know. So a good example with that would be, if we all remember Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, which came out in the Trump during the Trump elections.
Oh, that school.
Well, and so what Cambridge did was a data analytics company, and they start doing data modeling on people making decisions in third world countries to impact elections. And so similarly, when they start using Facebook, on Facebook you may say, hey, here's a cat meme. I like this cat meme. And I also, like guns. And so then you start seeing more stuff related to maybe more right-wing things, and skewed you, and they started to present things on Facebook to you that skewed you in a direction.
So you mean it will end up showing us things that'll just pop up on our Facebook page based on some data that we see that.
Right.
We can sometimes, I think I know if these phones can hear us.
Yeah.
Because you could be talking about something, the next thing you know, it pops up on your right,
exactly,
yeah.
And so
or Facebook, Google or Facebook.
That's true.
And that's the.
So can these phones hear us? I think they can.
Yes and no. So they're definitely using AI to make your experience better, to improve your experience. So when you're doing searches, or don't know the inner workings of Apple, so I won't make like broad judgments
you're
on them.
Android.
Well, I have
I
have an iOS phone as well, but if you are searching on Google or you're on Facebook and you've made a search,
so you don't use Google?
I do use Google. I believe in convenience, but I think there's a balance. So we like the convenience that it may. If I'm.
What was that? Is there somebody on the phone?
Oh. I like the convenience of the technology knowing what we may want. So, for example, if I'm looking for pretty braids, I want my technology to know that I'm a black woman and the braids should be of black women, and I want to see, a new style. That's convenient for me. But I don't want them to, when I'm on the phone, to say, like, I'm going on vacation, and then show me Hawaii, like, sites. Like, that seems intrusive. So, again, there's this disconnect between your experience in your privacy and what is going to be efficient for technology. And that's where we're trying to come in.
Okay.
So I just want to go backwards a little, because I feel like we kind of skirted over it. So tell me more about, because I was asking about the Constitution, right? The role that is played, and then you mentioned about Biden.
Right.
And what I heard you say too is that you believe that the Constitution should do what again?
So it's a living document.
Okay.
So not to say that we will add more amendments to it, but it should. So it's kind of how the Supreme Court works and and when we're legally, we have rules, but we should apply those rules by what's happening in society today. So in the Constitution, you have the right to privacy. So the government cannot come into your house unless you're at war and come to your house and just say, I'm going to live here. That's part of your Fourth Amendment, right? You have, and you against search and seizure, you have lots of rules built in there for privacy. But we haven't, because the Constitution was written before technology. You don't talk about data there or your right to privacy. So it has to continue to grow and live based on how we exist in modern society.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
That it would become a living document based on how society is growing from something that was initially written in the 1700s.
Right, exactly. And so the disconnect is that the people in Congress and
When was it written in the 1700s?
Yeah, well, the
It was a
thing
long time
is,
ago.
the thing is, right, you're right, it really should, or need to, in terms of what's happening in society, but there's nothing new. And when I think about, this is off topic what you're talking about, I do agree technology was not in there. Well, when you think about, in terms of how we have grown, so you think about horses at one time, right? So now you have cars, and so there's always been a progression, right? So now we
have
technology,
electrical vehicles,
right? Exactly. And what I was just thinking about, how it's easy to manipulate. People can really what you're saying, right? That it can be easily manipulated, and so that's what people are doing with data. They manipulating the data. They're manipulating the Constitution. That's all I'm saying. And so when you think about it, like the voting rights was added in 1964, right?
Yeah.
And so, but now it's all this interpretation.
Right.
So if we go by just a living document that used to grow in society, they're saying that we don't need to be here in society. I mean, so that's all I wanted to point out. Yes. Hello, caller.
Good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Good evening. My question is more about how much are corporations making off data today, approximately? I mean, it feels like they're just using our data because they can and because we don't have any information and no knowledge. How are they profiting off it today?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So currently,
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. Currently in the data ecosystem, it's $3.6 trillion that people organizations are making using our data. That's
$3.6 trillion.
Yeah, it's a lot of money being exchanged based on something that you're not a part of, and
that we're not making any money off of.
That's what she said. We're not.
Yeah,
part of it, right?
You're on the outside.
They're taking it.
They're taking it.
Yeah, they're taking it.
And it's very significant. And there's a significant impact. We saw just recently, 2 years ago, when Facebook had to allow people to opt out of data sharing, their valuation of their company plummeted about 20%. And now we're seeing Facebook trying to catch up, like figure out what they're going to do to make money. It's interesting. They're trying to charge people to have like personalized ads to make up that difference, because now regulatory bodies are saying like, okay, you're making too much money doing this and it's unfair. But yeah, it's a significant marketplace.
Well, even when
Did
you
we
think
answer your question, caller?
You did. I do have a follow-up question to that, though, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
please.
So I guess I'm wondering, since there's so much money to be made on this, and companies clearly are going to lose money on it, I know that they, in the past, have used like technology to monitor you as you went to concerts and parks and events, sporting events, to get your data so they have a track record of where you go. Is that a part of all of this regulatory data stuff, or is that something different?
No, that is part of it. We're looking at a really big ecosystem. So for our businesses, so it's two parts to this right now. So businesses are making business decisions based on your data. So they need it. They're reliant on it. They want to know how long you're at a concert. How many drinks do you buy when you're there? All that is very useful.
How often do you go?
How often do you go? And then so that's behavioral data and financial data. And coupled with that, the regulatory bodies are saying, no, that's not necessarily fair without their consent. But what does consent look like if you're saying, yeah, you want to do this. In order to do this, I want to go to this concert, but in order for you to go to the concert, you need to opt in. Is that really consent, or is that like a coercive relationship?
I think it is more.
Yes.
We're being coerced.
Yeah.
Correct. Well,
So go ahead.
are you done, caller? Any more questions? We don't want to talk over you and start asking.
No, I'm fine. Thank you so much for the information. This is a great subject, and I would encourage everyone to really find out more about how they can control their own data and understand what's being done with it without their permission.
Yes.
That is
Thank
really
you, caller.
true. Well,
Thank you for
sometimes-
calling
Thank
in.
you.
Thank you. Sometimes,
Good night.
Good night.
I notice on Facebook, right? We fill out. I do not, but we fill out these things about the prettiest, being the prettiest, or we have, like they take our images of our faces and all that. That scares me. I stay away from all that. But I see so many people filling them out, and I'm like, this is nothing but data.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes, completely aligned with Facebook specifically. That's where they collected a lot of your data. From facial recognition, so a lot of more healthcare like related stuff, biometric data, to even when you see those princess quizzes, like who are you?
Yes, all of
and you
those.
answer some questions and they say you're Jasmine. Well, that probably most likely is getting sold to Disney. If I was going,
Wow.
to kind of, or figure out where you lie in, like,
A lot of people just do those things because they're just
They
taking
just think they're
time.
doing fun.
Just right, it's
Right.
fun.
It's
funny,
not fun.
It's simple,
Yeah.
and means nothing, but it does.
means so
They are
much.
collecting data. So how do we fight? What are some of the challenges in advocating for our privacy?
Yeah.
So we don't need to opt in to all these things that we're opting into because they're just playing these things. The little, what do you look like, and if you look like Ariel or Frozen, all those
All
things
of
are
those.
collecting our data.
So one of the really important things, especially in Michigan, so California has been very, very
And you're from
progressive.
California. You're living in California now.
I'm living in North Carolina
North
now. So I'm
Carolina.
originally from
Oh,
Michigan.
and thank you for coming.
Yeah. I'm home for Thanksgiving. So, but California is one of the more progressive states. It's really here in Michigan, especially for Michiganians, to be proactive. Just like I think we opened up talking about how important is your vote, who's representing you, and not being disconnected to that. The same is privacy is a bipartisan issue. And so no matter what side of the aisle, we should be talking to our representatives and saying, I want this right to be active in Michigan. Because not only do we interact with global companies, we have very large manufacturers or people who interact with the rest of the world who may be we're going through in Detroit specifically a huge ability to autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles. That's a lot of data being collected in those sources. And so we do have power to talk about it, but we have to go from a regulatory perspective and then pushing back on our companies that we work with. Very good example again is your insurance company. They don't need 30 years of your data. Most of us have been with the same insurance company most of our lives for either your life policy or your auto policy. They don't need, from when your mother was was on your policy or different things, but that's stuff they sell to other insurers. So making sure that we're very, not only in our individual lives, very recognize who may have too much of our data. So that also opens us up to data breaches, which creates a whole new realm of issues. But then also going to our state representatives and saying, this is an important topic for us, because as we get to more digital economies, we want to make sure we have the right protections moving forward.
So no one's actually And I hear you saying we need to be more progressive about it, and I'm not disagreeing. But right now, what I'm understanding in Michigan, it's just not something that's being addressed. Is that right?
So there's a proposal on the floor for a privacy regulation, but it didn't move anywhere. It just was proposed. And again, we're kind of going into a really big election year with lots of people.
I think people don't understand AI. People are still learning.
Or data.
Or data breaches, or
Right,
data,
privacy,
the amount
yes.
of data that's being accumulated on us.
Yes.
So how does your company help with some of those challenges?
Right, so we automate a lot of that for people. So we really, again, believe it's a right. And so our premise, the exchanges, so say you make $180 a month, we take 0.2% of an exchange fee. We're really positioned to make sure that you make money off of your data. We're just charging like
so
the-
anybody can make money now off of their data going through your company?
Correct.
And what do they need to do to go through your company gives them the opportunity to capture their own data and not sell it to somebody else?
Exactly.
So
So
Michelle and I can
Yes.
do
Right,
this.
all right.
Okay,
That's what I'm trying to get a full
Yeah, yeah.
understanding.
Right,
yeah,
So then we can sign up with Elroy Company.
Right.
And then you're going to show us what?
So you get a dashboard, and in that dashboard, it's very user friendly. It just says, who are you interested in sharing data with? So is that political organizations? Is that
So we're going to share some data with you. But then you're
Well,
going
we're
to
going to
show
look
us.
at what.
So we don't.
Yeah.
So on our side, from a technology standpoint, we never see your data. We
Okay.
we store it on your behalf, but we encrypt it because we recognize, for me, that's a big risk for us. So it's your own wallet. You make all your decisions.
But then you kind of teach us how not to
Correct.
get caught up in sharing our data with
Exactly.
so many other people.
Exactly.
And then we can get a check for it?
Yes.
We can get paid
That's
for
awesome.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, new
And-
job.
I know, right?
So we're all really hoping that, especially when you think about, all our data as we've worked and been employees is very, very valuable. But now think about, like, some of our most vulnerable in our communities are 13 to 18 year
And the
olds
seniors.
and the seniors who are very
because they call you all day
Yeah,
and,
and
all night long. I apparently am on a couple of senior lists, and I don't know how
and
to
they
get off.
try to trick people.
Oh
to
my
get
goodness,
this
they
and
do
that.
it, and they try to sound like they're your friend. Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
Well, the whole point of AI, right? It's going to mimic your voice.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, they can really go and be you, just like
Yeah.
Chase and
Right.
all these banks and stuff. They're acting like, and what the numbers that they're giving are the same exact numbers, but they have funneled those numbers in a different direction, and they can get into your bank accounts. I mean, we really do need to become educated.
Yeah. So, and then in another part that I think is part of the education, there's been a big push with the federal government called the Digital Equality Act. And so each county received funding from the government to do education for that digital literacy, but also for digital protection. And it's something that you're the perplexed faces are looking at me. It's it's pointing out that we as a country have failed at where we've given money for. It was something like $500 billion given, and each state had the right to request funding for it to make sure that the citizens, to your point, if you're in a community that's on a list and has someone who's calling you acting like your friend and like, hey, just confirm your name, just confirm your email address. It takes email address and name to reset all your accounts. I get your Gmail account.
So you mean when they call me and they're saying like they know my address, but they are asking me
To confirm.
to confirm it.
Yeah, and they want your voice. So when we go back
Exactly.
to generative
So it's
AI,
okay for me to keep hanging up on
Yes.
them like I generally do. I mean,
Yes.
when I tell you right now I'm getting probably 15 to 20 calls a day for seniors.
Yeah, I would definitely. My biggest policy is to either not say affirmative things, so no yes, no's, okays. It must, if you're going to communicate, say no, or
Usually when I hear the click over, because I answer all of my calls, and then when I hear the click over, I could tell
Yeah.
that it's
'Cause
from
they're
a
looking-
call center and
Yeah,
click.
they're looking for that sound bite. So there's a couple different things that they could be doing there. So they may be looking for a sound bite of your voice to get access to your accounts. It doesn't take much to replicate your voice, to very much your point.
Wow.
It's the
I know.
callers.
I had these places are calling me about timeshare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my words to them, one, I probably need to stop answering them,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm tired of them calling, so I say, take me off your list.
I say that too.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot.
They
of-
don't take me. I say that
Yeah.
if I say anything, I say, please take me off your list.
Yeah.
Then they call back in 15 more
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. So a
Somebody
good,
different, maybe.
so a good list that you can join is the the federal Do Not Call registry.
Yes. It must expire. 'cause
It
I
does
had that.
expire,
Okay.
so you have to go back. Michigan also has one.
So what's the name of the organization? We should call the Federal Do Not Call.
Yeah.
So if you want people to get off your phone calling you all the time for different things, get on the Federal Do Not Call registry. And then also you need to sign up with Elroy Company. And what's the name of how do people get in touch with you?
We're at www.elroy.ai.
Okay, so you hear that. It's not a .com or .org. It's a .ai.
Yeah.
So it's ELROI, Elroy,
.ai.
.ai.
www.elroy.ai.
ELROI.ai.
Yeah, and that spells Elroy. One of the questions I wanted to ask you about is Jesus, it went out of my mind. I'll come back. It just went right out of my mind. But it was something when you were talking about the privacy and the breaches, and it just went out of my mind.
I can talk a little bit about how, because sometimes people get privacy and data breaches confused.
Okay.
And
yes.
we're very, very closely related. So think
Okay.
about data privacy. So you have a house and you control who's in your house and who can
Okay.
come in and out of your house. That's privacy. So you have to invite people into your house and say, this is how long you can stay. Data security is when someone just breaks in because you didn't have a door like on your house, or your window was open. And so when you don't have the right security procedures, so that could be your passwords, not two-factor authentication, that gives people a lot of ability to come into your house. Now, what makes data privacy and data security so closely related, when you have companies who have so much of your data, then they become an even greater target for these people who are trying to get into their databases. So a little known fact is some of the largest municipalities, some of our doctors' offices have lots of data breaches, and they end up getting ransoms. Like, hey, if you want the records, we took your records, you need to pay us to get those records back or we'll expose them. A lot of times your companies that you're like the small doctor's offices aren't paying those ransoms. Maybe your municipalities may not pay those ransoms, so then your stuff gets breached. And now
It's
you
just
may
out
have
there.
like a credit issue. You may have to go file something with your bank, file something with the federal
That's
government.
good.
But that's the connection between data privacy and data security. We want to make sure that you have a lower amount of data out there in the world. So when someone tries to get in, they're only accessing so much, and that's why I'm saying there shouldn't be like pots and pots of data everywhere, because it creates a big risk because you have more access.
We're going to have you back, because one of the things, and I'm sorry, one of the things I just wanted to say is that, and what I'm hearing you say, as African Americans or brown and black communities, we need to be seeing more of us in what's going out in this data, because it's more of, they're not the majority, but it's more of the Caucasian white
Right.
culture. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Anything else you want to share with us before we go that you want the community to know about AI or about Elroy.ai?
Again, with Elroy, we believe data privacy is a right, and we're excited about helping people get the right to make money off of their data. So thank you.
Get in
Thank you.
contact with Elroy Company at www.elroi.ai. Call today. Go online today and get connected for your own data privacy
And get
Right.
paid.
and
Right.
get paid
How
while
about
you're
that?
doing
While
it.
you're doing it.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being our
you. This
guest
was
today.
excellent.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
And I've learned a
Rachel.
little bit more
Yes.
about AI. Because a couple of things, like I said, I thought were AI. Now, that was AI I was seeing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming and being our guest
Yes,
today.
Thank you. Thank you for
appreciate
inviting
so
me.
much.
And you mentioned something about Israel. We're going to be talking about. Next week we've got people coming to talk about Israel. We've got Rabbi. We've got Bishop Glenn Plummer.
Yes.
We've got Rabbi from the Jewish community. Eric Bronstein, and we've got Pastor Keon Payton, and we're going to be talking about how what's happening in Israel is impacting our communities today.
Yes.
So
Thank
tune
you
in.
so
Thank
much,
you for
Colin.
tuning in and
Yes.
tune